Hello aspirants and welcome again to Legacy IAS Academy. In this lecture, we will be dealing with the news with respect to the Nobel Prizes that have been given in the field of economic sciences. So there are three gentlemen who have received the Nobel Prize, Mr. Joel Mokyr, Philippe Aghion and Peter Howitt. Now they have been given the Nobel Prize combined. However, the prize money which is there will be shared. Half of the prize money will go to Mr. Joel Mokyr and the remaining half to these gentlemen. Now, what is this Nobel Prize for? This Nobel Prize is given for, it is given for explaining the innovation-driven economic growth. So these three together, their studies together combined is basically explaining as to how it is the innovation that is driving the economic growth. And since it is the innovation that is driving the economic growth, and the innovations were not much if you go back 2-3 centuries ago, as a result of which there was not much economic growth as well 2 to 3 centuries ago. And this economic growth is a very recent phenomena is what they have claimed, and which is driven by the innovation. So we'll understand how innovation is driving it. We'll understand what are the different concepts they have come up with, so on and so forth. We'll also understand, does this new research of theirs have any implications with respect to the policy formulation. Now, before we begin, a small announcement with respect to the new batches that will start at Legacy IAS Academy with a batch size of less than 40 aspirants. The advantages that you get once you enroll with us is listed over here. Some of them, like the comprehensive coverage of GS syllabus. The most important thing probably here is the one-on-one mentorship that you will get, regular discussion and doubt solving sessions with the mentors that you just saw. There will be daily answer writing practice for you to improve your answer writing skills, prelims as well as mains test series, and a 360-degree approach for current affairs, wherein the entire week's current affairs is covered in live classes itself. So if you want to enroll with us, you can download the app, log on to the website, or call the numbers that are on your screen. Now let's continue with the news. So the context here is, it's the Royal Swedish Academy of Sciences that gives this particular this award, and this academy has recognized these three people for talking about the innovation driven economic growth. Now, let us understand what are the key questions that they have answered. So the very first question in front of us was as to why did sustained growth begin post-industrial revolution. So they mentioned that the sustained economic growth, the GDP growth rate that we talk about, that India is growing at around 6.5%, that is what the economic growth we are talking about. Now they have mentioned this economic growth was absent 2 to 3 centuries ago. It was absent, and it's a very recent phenomena. So a question comes as to why this has happened post the industrial revolution. So they have come up with a very interesting answer over here, in which they are saying that before the industrial revolution, the knowledge that we had was prescriptive knowledge. Now, what is the concept of prescriptive knowledge? The prescriptive knowledge says that you know that there will be certain things, you know that how things work. If you're doing a particular thing, you know how to do it, that's it. But at that time, you did not know why the things are working as they are working. For example, right now, we may know that if I switch on the laptop, I can log on to the website, I can browse what I want. So you are able to do that. But do you actually know what is making that work? Absolutely not. You may not be knowing it, but presently the researchers, the scientists actually know it. So initially, there was prescriptive knowledge which told people how things work, but not why it worked. But post-industrial revolution, what happened is, it got converted into propositional knowledge, which talked about why the things are actually working. Now, how was this possible? This was possible because of the scientific revolution that took place majorly in the European region in the 16th and 17th century. Now, in this scientific revolution, it was the revolution of the intellect, wherein people were starting to question everything they were seeing around themselves. So since they were questioning all these things, they were not satisfied by just knowing how things work, but started to question as to why these things are working, and hence post-industrial revolution we started to get answers, as a result of which the innovation skyrocketed post the industrial revolution. Now let's move on to the next slide. Now here let's understand what the contributions of these individual economists are. So first, talking about Mokyr's social dilemma. So Mokyr's social dilemma was about the fact that growth will require societal openness to change. So we have seen how innovation is driving change, but Mokyr says that innovation alone is not enough to drive the social change. Now why is that the case? That is because what if people are not open to the social change? People are not open to the technological advancement. And there is a huge possibility of that. Why? Because when technology advances, some of the people will own this technological factors of production, the others will not own this technological forces of production. So in the society, there will be inequality. People who might be rich previously might end up becoming poor, as a result of which they may not be attracted to go for innovation or basically facilitate innovation. Hence, he says that this growth which is happening due to innovation also requires openness of the society to change. And where did this openness come from? It did not necessarily come in willingly, but it comes from the government. It comes from the institutions which regulates us, which stops from doing any crime, and which at times can also force things onto us even though we may not like it. So there is a system in place which basically comes up with the changes, and we somehow have to accept it. As an individual, we not necessarily have any voice against them. So because of the societal openness to change, this innovation can actually lead to the development, is what Mr. Mokyr says over here. Now coming on to the next two gentlemen, Aghion and Howitt. Now what is their contribution here? Their contribution is with respect to the modern lens. Modern lens means they are looking at the contemporary world and focusing what the future will hold. So they talk about the fact that it is the model of creative destruction which is leading to the growth. Now what is this model? This model is of Schumpeter, of creative destruction, which says that in a society, the destruction will happen, but it is going to be a creative destruction. That means at present there might be certain technologies which might be patented as well, but since they are patented, it may create a monopoly. That means only one particular person will be able, or organization will be able to benefit. Now in the same field, if you also want to benefit, what do you have to do? You have to come up with a new innovation which is better than the old innovation. So this new innovation is going to destroy the previous innovation which existed. So this will lead to competition among the firms, among the individuals, leading to faster pace of innovation, thus leading to growth. Why this innovation is going to lead to growth? Because this new innovation is going to be better than the previous innovation. For example, the advancement of 4G over 3G. Now 4G is a faster network. Similarly, 5G is even faster, so on and so forth. So that is how it will happen. Now the issue here is they also say that every year around 10% of the firms die. That means 10% of the companies are getting closed. But still, how we are progressing? Because these 10% of the companies are being replaced by new 10% of the companies which are even better, and hence the growth still happens even though 10% of the companies are out of the business. Now, since this is what they have explained, the government may have a question in front of them. It is very clear that innovation is driving the growth, right? But at the same time, the people need to accept the growth. Also, we have seen that 10% of the firms are going to fail. That means they will be at the losing side. So two questions arise in front of any government who would want to proceed their growth with the help of innovation. Those two questions are: number one, Should they subsidize the R&D? R&D means research and development. If they subsidize the research and development, the company can innovate, the countries can innovate even more and develop at a faster pace. But when they do that, we know that around 10% of the firms are going to fail. When the firms fail, it is not just the firm but the people associated with it. That means huge number of people are also going to be unemployed as well. Maybe they will lose job, they will not have money, they will not have things to do. So for them, should the government subsidize the welfare is the question. So should the government approach towards subsidizing R&D or subsidizing the welfare? Now what can happen here in the future is a mixed approach, wherein some amount is given for subsidizing the R&D and at the same time some amount is allocated for the people who will be on the losing side of this innovation and may require welfare to sustain their life. Thank you.